We looked at what borrowing and investing meant. We looked at accumulated means principal plus interest, and then we did those activities. We looked at some bigger amounts. We looked at ones where we had to calculate. Did we look at this one? Did we answer this one? I think so. But we can quickly do it again. So additionally, it is 12%. So that would be my interest rate is the 12%. But 12% of 2,000 Rand is a multiplication sum telling me my interest is 240 Rand. And accumulated is principal plus interest. So it's 2,240 Rand. Oh, yes, we did do it. Then we went on to the two types of interest. And I said that there are two types of interest. One where we calculate at the beginning and only calculate once. And that is called simple interest. Then there's one that we calculate at every compound. So there are 4 compounds in a year. We will do 4 calculations for that year. And if there are 2 years, then we'll do 8 calculations, 4 for each year. So we can't just do one calculation like simple. There has to be a calculation at every single compound. Okay, so it's calculated continuously, and it's also every time we do a calculation, we get a new amount, and the new calculation is based on that new amount, whereas simple interest is only on the principal. Then here's our 2 definitions. So simple interest is interest that is calculated once off at the beginning of the time period, and it is based on the principal, the interest rate, and the time period. Compound interest is calculated at regular intervals, so that depends on what the compounds are, throughout the time period. It is based on the interest rate, the number of compounds in the year, the time period, and the accumulated amount at each compound. So when I talk about compound, I, for instance, would say 17.5% per annum compounded monthly. That means that the whole year is 17.5%, but I have to do a calculation every single month because that is what the compounded monthly tells me. So I think that's where we stopped yesterday when the bell was going. So our general idea, and especially for simple interest, is that we have accumulated equals to principal plus interest. You've seen that, okay? Now, how do we calculate interest? Well, just like we did before, 12% of 2,000, it is my interest rate times the principal amount, okay? So if I combine those 2 calculations, I have my principal from the original over here, but now the interest gets taken over by this portion here, principal times interest rate. So accumulated is equal to principal plus principal times interest rate. We can write that down. It's a very important idea to get into our heads. That the multiplication is equal to the combination of, or the multiplication of principal times interest rate. So this whole bracket that we add is the interest in rands. We write that or emphasize that. Let's see if I can write it on the. So once we've done the calculation, it is the interest in rands. I think I need a computer pen. The R is for rands. So now we're going to look at how this applies specifically to simple interest. Okay, now most of our interest rates are per annum. They tell me that I must add however much every year. So the number of years also plays a role, because I'm going to have to add the interest for year 1 and then add it again for year 2 and add it again for year 3 and so on and so forth. So with simple interest, we need to know the amount of years so that we can add the interest that many times. So the same amount of interest each year, but we can add it all in one go. So the interest would be my principal times my interest rate, which tells me how much interest there is for 1 year, and then I times it for the number of years that I have that loan or that investment. So we get to a point where the interest rate is the principal plus the principal times interest rate times the number of years. And once again, this bracketed part tells me my total interest that I will have to pay. So it's still my interest, but now it's going to be the total interest over all those years. So this is getting worse, not better. Sorry, my writing is really difficult to write with a mouse. See, 1, 2, we're still writing. Okay. So let's demonstrate. Let's see how this actually works with an example. So 5,000 Rand is borrowed at 11.5% per annum, and I'm telling you it's simple interest for 2 years. Calculate how much must be paid back in total. So each year we have to pay 11.5% of the 5,000 Rand. So 5,000 Rand times 11.5% is 575 Rand. That's year 1. That's how much I have to pay in year 1 for interest. Then year 2 is still based on my principal amount at 11.5%. Times 5,000 Rand is 575 Rand. So the total interest that they are paying is 575 Rand for year 1 and 575 Rand for year 2, which is the same as saying 575 Rand times 2 instead of adding, okay? Which is a total of 1,150 Rand. Now to get my accumulated amount, it's going to be my principal. So this 5,000 here is my principal. And my interest, which I've calculated and put the rands in and added together. So the total amount that has to be paid back is 6,150 Rand. Now, you are more than welcome to split it up that way, and it is best to understand that is what is happening, okay? Especially when we come to compound interest. We are calculating at every point in the thing, but we can make it a bit simpler, and that's my next slide. Okay, so we can split it up like we did before, or we can do it in one calculation. We can say it is, there's my interest, so that's my 5,000 Rand times 11.5% for 1 year, but then I'm timesing it by 2 for 2 years. If the loan was for 4 years, we would times by 4 years. If it was 3.5 years, we would times by 3.5. Okay, so that bracket is still equal to 1,150. So that bracket that I did does all of this together in one bracket. Okay, and then 6,150. I have made a very important note here because learners do forget. If you are going to keep the whole number, you have to use the percentage sign. Else you're going to get a number in the 100,000s, which is definitely incorrect. Okay? If you're not going to use the percentage sign, then you have to change it to a decimal. 0,115. So you have a choice, either the decimal, which I prefer to do, or the percentage, which I have found a lot of the learners prefer to do. Okay, so you need to have that percentage sign there. So we are going to start with our activity for calculating simple interest. So there are 3 activities. We'll work through the first one together, but the second and third one you are going to do by yourselves. So we can split it up. So it says there, calculate the amount by splitting up the calculation. So I'm telling you now, you have to split. So you're going to calculate interest by itself and then add it to your principal. So like I said, we're going to do this first one together. So I have 7,250 Rand, which is borrowed at 8.5% per annum, simple interest over 3 years. 7,250 Rand is my principal amount. 8.5% simple interest is my interest rate, and my time period is 3 years. So like I said, we're splitting it up. So the first thing I'm doing is my interest is 8.5% of my principal. How many years am I doing it for? I'm doing it for 3 years. Give me a total interest of 1,848 Rand and 75 cents. So that's just the interest. That's the extra I have to pay. So my accumulated amount is the amount I initially borrowed, my principal, plus the extras that I'm paying, giving me a total of 9,098 Rand and 75 cents. So write that one down so that you know what to look at when you answer the next 2. Okay, yeah, the other 2 for you to try. 2,250,000 is borrowed at a 15.25% per annum simple interest over 5 years. So it's basically following the same method as the previous question. And then 156,675 Rand and 99 cents is invested at 10.75% per annum simple interest over 2.5 years.
As soon as you grade one, you can finish your work this week, yeah. Okay, well, then the message, she said she was worried. So I strictly wanted to check if you didn't finish. I don't know if I'll see them tomorrow.
I will see them tomorrow, so I have today, Thursday, and Friday, and I just have Caroline and yes, I was trying to do the furthest point line we like.
If you have time. So what I'm going to do is I'll set the test, and then I'm going to let this week run and see where everybody gets up to, and then I can just change it. Because yeah, we can't, whatever we finish at the end of this, that's what the test is going to be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is one option.
Yeah.
No, and would you want to do that?
We can't because some classes only have technology and K and like it's to do to K. Yeah, so it's just fun and
Okay. And that's it. Yes. When Amy comes back, we will look at the answers. Yeah, we may as well mark it. Okay. So remember, you specifically had to split up. So there's my 2,250,000, and I've written it as a decimal. Like I said, that's how I prefer it. But if you want to do the percentage, you need to have the percentage sign in your calculation. So we have, as a decimal, it is 0,1525, and it is for 5 years, giving me a total of 1,715,625 Rand interest. Then there's still my principal plus my interest to get me my accumulated amount is 3,965,625. Any problems, grade 10s? Okay. And that is quite an accurate, actually, if we had to take a home loan at 2.25 million, that is still an underestimated amount of what you would pay back, because home loans are on compound interest, not simple interest. But yeah, but you can see the more money you borrow, the more interest you end up paying. Okay. Our next one, which was 156,675 Rand and 99 cents, which was invested at 10.75% per annum. Simple interest for 2.5 years. So you can see that once again, I've used the decimal. So I will use them interchangeably so you can get used to seeing a percentage as a decimal. So that is 0,1075 times 2.5, because it's 2.5 years, gives me an interest of 42,106 Rand, and I round it off to 67 cents. And my accumulated, once more, is my principal plus the interest, giving me 198,782 Rand and 66 cents. Any questions? Simple, easy peasy. Okay? Simple interest is the interest that you want, and in grade 10, it is most likely the interest you will get. Okay? In grade 11, our focus is on compound, which we are going to be doing on Friday probably. Okay, another activity. Now I want you to do it in a single calculation. Different questions. We'll do the first one together so you can see what I mean by single calculation. And then after this, it is your decision in a test. Okay, do you want to do it separately or do you want to do it in one calculation? It is your decision. So my first one says I am borrowing 32,250 Rand at 12.5% per annum simple interest over 4 years. So my calculation is my principal, okay? And then I say plus, in brackets, my principal times my interest rate times my number of years. So that's what I mean by one calculation. We're going to do all of this in a bracket. We are going to add it to the principal, and we get an accumulated amount of 48,375. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to get that down as your example, and then 2 questions as an activity. Sorry. Where are we? Okay. Okay, just 1 or 2 minutes of writing, and then I'll show you an example. I mean, your 2 questions that you need to do. Okay, your 2 to practice. 1,319,900 is borrowed at a 7.25% per annum simple interest over 30 years. And then 359,599 Rand and 26 cents is invested at 17.05% per annum simple interest over 3¼ years. Anyone still busy? There's our example. Here's our exercise. So we have our principal, okay, and my interest is what's being calculated into this bracket. And I specifically went and showed the 0.725 as the percentage. So you can see that when it's less than 10, we have to have a 0 in the decimal. So it is 1,319,900 Rand times 0.0725 times 30 years. So we can see that we have the principal and we have more than double in interest, paying back a total of 4,190,682 Rand and 50 cents. And again, that is something, for instance, like a house bond, and currently our interest rates are that low, but they are on compound, so it would actually be slightly more than what we have just calculated. The next one. I have 359,599 Rand and 26 cents, and yes, I will keep saying the amounts at 17.05% interest for 3¼ years. So there is my principal plus principal times, yeah, I've used the percentage of 17.05, and I must include the percentage sign, times 3¼ years. A quarter is 25,25. There's my interest, what the bracket is equal to, 199,262 Rand and 94 cents. And my total that I have to, or total that I will get back after 3¼ years is 862 and 20 cents. Please note how I added that 0. It is money. It has to be 2 decimal places. Any questions? Simple interest formulas, calculations are just as they say, simple. But if you don't know what you're doing, it is marks that you are going to lose. Okay? So the next section is hire purchase. And we're only going to do a little bit of it today because the bell's going to ring. And it is actually for tomorrow. So we'll just read it. No notes needed to be taken down now. We'll write it down tomorrow. Okay? When we buy items on credit at a shop, so we go to the shop, we want something, and they offer us to buy it on credit, that whole situation is actually called hire purchase. You are hiring it until you've actually paid it off. Then only does it truly become yours. Okay? Generally, to show like a show of faith that you can actually afford it, they will ask for a deposit. Okay, so they'll say, pay some cash up front and the rest will be taken on credit. Okay, and that rest has got a term, it's called the balance. Now my balance is what it is worth, the selling price minus my deposit, and the balance is what is taken as a loan. And for hire purchase, I won't tell you, except for now, if I talk about hire purchase, I'm always talking about a simple interest calculation. Okay, so as soon as you see the words hire purchase, you are immediately thinking simple interest. Okay, and that is only on the balance. There is no need to calculate a loan on a portion that you have already paid. You are not paying interest on a deposit because you've already paid that. You only pay what is left that you still have to pay. So that is where your calculation comes in. Then we'll look at the 4 main ideas and definitions that we'll deal with. Then we will do a demonstration of buying a laptop, paying a deposit, the remaining amount on credit over 24 months. I want to calculate the monthly repayments. Then we can also have, and that'll be our answer, then we can also have adding insurance, which would be a monthly cost. And then you will do it yourself. And then we will start looking at compound interest. So I might even add 1 or 2 on the board, depending on how time goes, if we have go through it too quickly. Then we'll look at compound interest later in the week. We'll recap what simple and compound interest are. We'll look at how compound interest differs. And then you will calculate, then we will compare it. So you can see how it changes with the same amounts, at the same percentage, but the calculations are different. And then if we get to it, we will recap some VAT. So that is what we're doing for the rest of the week. So you can pack up now and we can wait for the bell.